Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to today's program. And today we are going to talk about how to find and anchor a boat in the middle of the choppy seas of life. And so I personally want to relate to this by telling a story about when I was growing up in the village. We will be taken to the middle of the sea on a boat, all of us onto the boat, and then we'll be taken onto the middle of the sea, and then the boat will be turned upside down, and every one of us will be left on their own to fight for survival. So every day, this will be going on to just kind of train us about if we find ourselves in the middle of a storm, what to do, and all of that stuff. So today, I want us to look at our mental health, grief, and loss, and some of the challenges that we go through life as a symbol of that boat, or similar to that boat where you have to fight for survival. What are the things that you're supposed to do when you find yourself in the choppy waters of life? To help me break down this particular topic is one and only Petra Page and Wilfred Roach. Welcome to the studio today.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi.
Excellent. So what will be your take on this particular topic? What are some of the things that we could do if we find ourselves in the choppy waters of life and the challenges that are thrown towards us? What are some of the things that we could do to symbolize the boat of survivor?
I mean, I think it's a very interesting question in terms of how we are equipped to deal with the unexpected storms that often, certainly in my experience, engulf my life, and what you do in certain situations where the terrain is different. You know, it may be a bright sunny day, and then out of nowhere comes, a huge cloud. Or you may be, not expecting to be challenged by a particular person or particular subject. And in some cases, it's like a quick triage where you patch and mend as best you can, and you may, if you're fortunate, have an opportunity to reflect more deeply, or you're in the moment, and that in itself can be a challenge because you've got all sorts of internal things going on with your body in terms of reaction, fight, flight, and flight, and flight. My two flights.
Fight and flight, yes.
Flight and flight. I just want this to go away. I don't want to. This isn't happening. Denial. This isn't fair. Injustice. And you're right in the midst of the storm. So your internal, how you reflect on things internally and feel about things internally, I feel has a very significant impact in terms of how you deal with the external storm.
Okay, yeah. So are you referring to your belief system? Are you referring to a belief system? I mean, internal sort of negotiation with yourself, calm yourself down, and all of that. So you're talking about your belief system also play a very important role. That's powerful. Well, what would you like to add to it?
I like the way that you gave this story about the boat, which is essentially a symbol of our resources. And in a storm of life, you were told, well, in the middle of the sea, you were told, find the boat. And it's how do you tune into your own resources and get yourself back to safety. So I quite like the idea we were talking about where we really used boat as an acronym. And so if we start with the B, the first thing is the belief that in life and its possibilities and the resources that are there, but also belief in yourself that you could go and access those. And I think that belief in self is often the thing that causes us to fight and try to get out of the difficult situation that we're in, rather than to give up.
Yes, that's excellent. And so you pointed out about this belief and also the security that we have. Like, for example, whilst you are in the boat, once you are in the boat, you feel a little bit more safer, and then you feel like everything is okay. And then all of a sudden, that which is securing you over there is pulled underneath you, and then here you are, like trying to survive. So in this particular situation where what you have been secured with has finally been pulled underneath you, that's why the point you both made about your belief system, both internally and externally, comes to focus. And so the B is very powerful. Not only do you have to look for your belief system, but I think you, at that moment also, you probably need to be calm and be able to think a little bit on your feet whilst you are believing that I can do this, I can survive, I'm definitely going to survive, I'm not going to, so that kind of thing. In the course of seeking that belief system also, do we sometimes try to when the boat is probably the thing that you are surviving, and we're looking for the boat as any mechanism that kind of give you that safety, do we actually need to, Will was talking about internal dialogue, how far do we have to go with the internal dialogue?
I think it's interesting, actually. Just go back a step to how you introduced the story and the role of your father. And I think that's an important ingredient in terms of our belief systems and how they're supported, or whether they're robust enough to actually deal with the crises that face us. And you clearly, from my hearing of the story, you clearly had somebody who had a faith in you.
Yeah.
And you know, in terms of you literally treading water, and finding your way. And I think that that's also a critical factor, the role that a guardian, it doesn't, or somebody that's influential throughout your life, not just at the beginning of your life, but throughout your life, as a buttress for your belief systems.
I also like the fact that, you know, the concept of possibility is inherent in that belief in you as being able to rescue yourself in a difficult situation, and that you can connect to within yourself of, yes, I can do something about this, you know. And it's that internal but also external sort of net that you get caught in of possibility. So I think that's also a lovely aspect of this.
Yes. So I'll just expand on the story a little bit based on what you both said, which is very powerful. So literally, when the boat is turned, if you get thrown towards the other side, you have to be able to raise your head up and see where the boat is before you can direct your wherever you need to do to get to the boat. When you get to the boat, or whilst you are swimming towards the boat, sometimes one of your brothers will come, those who are keeping eye on all of us, will come and just push you up when they realize that you've taken too much water. Sometimes they don't do that. They stretch they stretch forth one of the paddles for you to hang on to. What you both just said right now, especially what we were talking about the anchor that a father provides for you during the course of whatever. For the fact that even though the father is keeping an eye on you, trying to guide you through these choppy waters, whilst you are on your own, sometimes there could be a help out there that you could, which is the resources that Petra was talking about. You from time to time, you have to go into that sort of reserve to see what resources are available for you in terms of that you can pull in to survive in this occasion. So Will was talking about the provision that the belief system is also built from home. So then when you find yourself in trouble, what do? What are some of the things that you can tap into from the home in terms of your mental fortitude to be able to survive? What are some of the things that we can touch on in that aspect?
Okay, can I answer that by going on to the letter O? Would that be all right at this point?
Yes. Yep.
Because I think that, you know, something that strikes me is that we're so often in our outside world doing and having and getting and trying to organize the outside environment to make us feel okay inside, or to get the results that we want. And obviously there's a lot of power in doing that. We have a certain amount, but sometimes the environment is actually reasonably inhospitable. I mean, you can't change it to the way that you want it to go, and other people aren't cooperative, or the opportunity isn't there. And so one of the things I'd like to say about the O is outside in, instead of being inside out, which is really where your power is. In other words, how do I bring myself in a present way to look at the situation, to look around, to decide what the possibilities are? How do I have the fortitude to deal with this and calm myself in a moment of panic? What qualities do I bring out of myself in order to respond effectively to this difficult situation? So I think that when life throws you off your course and things are very difficult, very often we'll go more into the environment. And in fact, what we really need to do is go more inside and find out, what strengths and so on we have to bring ourselves into a safer situation and get back on that boat.
So if I hear you correctly, are you saying that our open-mindedness to receive help whilst we are organizing ourselves for survival is also important? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, we mustn't forget that we have inner resources. So we've got the external resources, and we can believe in others and in possibility and all that kind of stuff, and believe in ourselves. But then we need to actually bring those character qualities, that sense of thinking about what is possible, and how we actually self-regulate in a very difficult situation, because that is really the thing that's going to make the biggest difference to what happens next. Is how do we respond? So that inside out approach is a very, very important part of the equation.
Will, I think what Petra just said tie in very nicely with what you said before. Do you want to add something to that? So our openness to receive help, and also being able to organize ourselves outside in, like she was saying, which tie in with the 2 points that you made before. Do you want to add to that?
Well, I think it's a very tricky balancing act. You have, certainly from my experience, you need to have presence of mind. Presence of mind sort of suggests two things to me. One is being present, and one is connecting to your state of being in that moment, and they're not necessarily the same thing. So you can be present while there is a brewing storm or a confrontation, but you're actually not being present in the sense that you're not connecting to the reality of what's outside of you, and then how you're feeling about that, because we are, as humans, we are feeling. We're all sensing. We've got all those senses going. So that's a lot to ask in a situation of crisis, in a situation of challenge. So I would suggest that takes time to develop that understanding and that appreciation that no two situations are ever the same. And that it can be frustrating, because you're like, if you're in that moment and you're thinking, well, I remember what happened
at that moment.
Yeah, in that moment, it's hard for us to. It is a challenge for us to be in that moment.
Well, it is indeed, and I think that what you're saying is this is the initial reaction: is that we can be in a bit of a panic and not really sure what to do, and that comes back to this whole thing of treading water while you look around for the boat. You may just have to actually be in that space of allowing some time to pass while you calm down and see, okay, now this is where I am. I've taken my bearings. I'm looking for a boat now. What is that boat going to look like? How will I recognize it when I see it? So it's, also allowing yourself to have a little bit of a reaction, but then trusting, back to belief again, that you will actually figure out what the next step is if you've had enough time to presence yourself.
So we're talking about being present in the moment to accept the reality of what is happening. So being present.
We need some time for acceptance. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So being present in the moment also give you that kind of freedom to think on your feet. And also, we could sometimes be thinking on what to do, but then at the same time, we might not have that kind of, there could be a thought that could be dominating the process at the moment. So we have things in the moment that we want to do. but then there's something else that is dominating you. That could be a symbol of taking in too much water, where you are something else is dominating and pulling you behind whilst you are pushing forward. Can you elaborate on if we find ourselves in a situation where we are being dominated a little bit and there's a little bit of freedom in front of us to save our life and secure ourselves and get to the boat? What are some of the things we can do to free ourselves if we find ourselves being dominated and being free a little bit, to be able to seek for survival in a situation? Yeah,
I think it takes a lot of for anyone. I think you really have to acknowledge that it takes a lot to find a degree of flexibility to respond to a situation that may be unfamiliar. It might be slightly similar to something, or in a significant way similar to something that has gone before. And human nature being what it is, we perhaps really want to believe that something is really, we don't really have to do that much to get out of a particular situation. And that's and to me, that you can go into, a place of a lack. You lack, you lack the imagination, you lack the skills, you lack the information. And actually, these things are often very much in plain sight. And we have to have the capacity to believe that we can actually deal with a given situation.
And I actually love that you said that these things aren't always in plain sight, because the next letter would be A, which is awareness. It is realizing that there are things that are going on that you maybe don't know. It is about trusting that they're going to come into your line of sight on the horizon, and that you'll be able to do something. And I think that awareness is such a powerful thing, because the more that you see, the more opportunity you have to do something, the more possibilities present themselves. When you can't see anything and you're kind of half under a wave or whatever, you're not in any place to resource yourself or do anything other than struggle for survival. But awareness brings that breathing space where you can start to make a choice. These are the options. These are my inner resources. What am I going to do now? And it may not be the thing that you want to do, but the fact is that it does bring that sense of agency back in again, another A, of feeling a little bit less overwhelmed and perhaps a little bit more present to the situation and what you might do in it.
I'm glad that you raised that point. Actually, the awareness, to be aware of what is happening. If you've never been in that situation before, you're struggling. But I did mention earlier on about what is dominating your thoughts and your feelings and your emotion. And within that short period of time, you got to do something, which is the fight or flight that Will was mentioning before. The awareness that Petra was talking about was the fact that recently, when I find myself in a situation losing my family members, some of my close family members, the awareness that was available to me was due to the fact that my thoughts are being dominated by what I have been through before, and then what is in front of me. And being aware of what is in front of me also helped me to be able to differentiate between where I can seek help and then how much I can do for myself. But sometimes also, even though you are aware, you just don't know where to branch off to. But the awareness actually kind of give you that kind of freedom to think clearly and said, okay, there could be a help out there. I could reach out for help. So that awareness is very crucial when it comes to our mental health and dealing with losses and grief and all of these things. The dominating factor of what it is that we're going to do and the actions that we're going to take, that also determines the ability to survive.
But one of the things to think about, though, is that in the heat of the moment, in fact, our awareness gets dulled down. You could call it perceptual narrowing, where your whole organism is going, there is danger here, and all I need to do is survive. It doesn't want you to be thinking about things and looking around. And in fact, you know, the reptilian brain, the limbic system, I think it is, actually cuts off your access to your prefrontal cortex, which is all your executive function and thinking. And so you literally are just looking for the thing that you need to do to survive, and you're not actually in a state of awareness. And in that state, you often think this is everything. There is no other option, and this is how it'll always be. And that is such a frightening feeling. And yet, given it a bit of time, with everything can calm down a little bit, your awareness is returned to you, and your perception opens up again, and you can start to really look around and see what the possibilities and resources that you have are, and even what your own internal responses could be. Because you know, in the time of survival, well, survival is it. No other resources are available to you. Thinking, pondering, planning, reaching out. It's just that one moment of survival. So I do think that's an important aspect of that. You know, that it's on a spectrum of time. You know, awareness. It's initially perceptual narrowing, and then it widens.
Well, what do you want to say to that?
You know, I think that we have a wealth of experience that sometimes we, in immediate situations of crisis, we can forget. And I think if we can look at ourselves and realize in those, you know, quiet moments, what it is that actually gets us through challenges, or what has got us through challenges. So it's that, you know, it's building that self-awareness or connecting to that self-awareness. Then that may be a great assistance to us when inevitably the next storm or the next tricky situation presents itself. Because I think, you know, in looking at this in the round, these are all challenges. You know, there's a saying of, what if it doesn't break you, then it'll make you. That, I think, doesn't always take account of the full complex range of possibilities in terms of challenge. And sometimes challenge comes disguised. Often it comes disguised. It doesn't come with a label and a bow on it. It comes, if you like, from left field. So if you can build your self-awareness in terms of your own experience and your own tools for coping with situations, and coping maybe is a really good way of saying, you know, that sometimes a challenge has different stages. And it is, to take Petra's point, you know, what can I do now? And then once that situation, that particular part of the process has subsided, you then have a moment to reflect, and you then have a moment to, or maybe you don't, but hopefully you do have a moment then to say, okay, well, what can I, to start to formulate a plan.
And I think implicit in what you're saying, Will, is that awareness and being connected to it also gives us access to our own store of wisdom. You know, because we have built it up over the years. We do actually have it, and when we can be present to what is on the horizon after the panic has subsided, we do actually have that as a resource as well.
Yes, we do, and sometimes that can be a shock, and sometimes that can be a pleasant surprise. But you know, I often look back. Because I don't know what's coming tomorrow. I don't know what's coming today. You know, my plans and so on for today, but that's another matter altogether. But if I look back at, you know, the storms that have engulfed me, or those close to me, or even sometimes not even close to me, you know, we've got terrible things happening around the world, but I often think, well, I'm still here. And as challenging as that situation was, actually on reflection, was it, or was it a useful refining of my, you know, or a particular tool that I needed to to work with.
Yeah, there was this famous thing that was said by Michelangelo, apparently, where someone said, how do you carve these incredible sculptures out of this block of marble? And he says, I just look at what is essentially, the form is essentially in it, and I carve away the excess. And, sometimes the storms of life they chip those things away from us. And we begin to see what is true and real and beautiful about us and our ability in that situation. And our relationship to the situation, rather than feeling alienated from it and from ourselves.
Okay, so quickly before we wrap up, do we also finding the boat, whereby we believe in the belief system that we go deep inside out to find ourselves and to find the resources that are available to us, organizing our thoughts and making ourselves open-mindedness to receive help, and also awareness to take action that will save us to survive. Do we also, what do you think the T in the boat will be for you? Mine will be the ability to talk or to take action. What will the T be for each one of you before we wrap up?
I think that T for me stands for transform, that each crisis is an opportunity to learn, and that in itself is transformative.
Ooh, that's
yes, I love that. I love that, and especially married to your idea of taking action. It is in our response that we actually do come to this transformation, not giving up. And like I had initially, I think those two are brilliant. Frankly, I shouldn't even bother contributing mine, but I had said trust. It's also trust. That I always think about this thing that Einstein said of the most important question you'll ever ask yourself is the universe benevolent? And it is about having that faith that somehow things are organizing themselves around you for your highest good and your greatest expression, and that you yourself actually can step in to meet it. The life will never give you something more than you can actually handle. So there's a trust in self and in the world. That's part of our resilience, I think, and our ability to step forward and take that action and be transformed and grow. So I love that. It's really gorgeous.
That's beautiful. Taking action to transform our lives. You can never go through pain without being transformed, and you can never go through the storms of life without being transformed. And in taking those decisions also you need to trust your guts instincts, that there's help out there as well. Until you talk to someone about it, until you take that action and look out for the transformation that will bring to you, the survivor actually depends on you. And finding the boat doesn't necessarily mean that the boat is there for you. You have to take the action to swim towards the boat. And it is up to you also to hang on to the boat until rescue comes to your aid. So in wrapping up...
Hopefully you get on the boat and you steer it through life, and you steer it more skillfully because you fell off it once. And you know how to get back to it and get back on it. And you also know what it is that caused you to fall off it in the first place. So, we are all steering our boat of life, aren't we? And on open seas, and who knows what will come. But, we are actually also in this beautiful little container that the boat is.
Yeah, that is so powerful. Will, do you want to add something to that? That's just incredible.
No, I think that really is a good place to stop.
So today we are wrapping up. We are being transformed by this conversation, and we are taking action, and we'll be talking as we keep going. So thank you all today for listening to us and for giving us your time. We really appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye now.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to toss this idea around. I think it's been very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you.
All
both.
right.
Love